part 3, we'll get into talking about Gemini, right? So Gemini is an air sign, right? It's the sign of the twins when we're talking about the constellation Gemini. It has to do with the stars Castor and Pollux, right? Gemini is sometimes conceptualized as like the Cain and Abel archetype. Sometimes it's conceptualized as Adam and Eve archetype. But it has to do with duality. It has to do with two together as one, and the exchange that happens between those two, right? Gemini is the archetype of the writer and the communicator, right? Mercury is the messenger of the gods, right? It's the storyteller. Mercury and Gemini also embody the notion of the wanderer, right? The student and the teacher, the trickster. So tonight we're going to explore a couple of these ideas. We're going to explore trickster archetype. We're going to explore the storyteller archetype. And we're going to explore this notion of exchange. And we're going to look at exchange through a couple of different lenses. Okay? But let's start with the trickster archetype. So one signature of the trickster is using your words against you in a very literal sense, right? So this would be kind of like the genie who grants wishes according to what you said and not what you meant. I want you to keep this in mind, especially when we're getting into the intention setting around this notion of storytelling. It's really, really important that we be cognizant of the storytelling we have going on in our own head, the storytelling that we have going on in our conversations and interactions with other people. Often, the storytelling that we have going on has to do with complaining about our current situation or things that are going on, right? When you complain, you're just going to perpetuate that story. Or sometimes, maybe we don't complain, but we explain. We feel the need to explain why things are happening to us the way they are. That complaining and that explaining may be derailing your forward progress in a very literal sense. And so what I want you to do is really kind of discover the power of living in the question. I want you to discover the power of being in a perpetual state of curiosity and wonder. Okay? Being able to do this helps us turn our mental storytelling on its head so that we can actually manifest what we really want out of life. And that's really, really important. So I want you to consider tonight, as we get into the intention setting part of what we're doing, is do you feel compelled to always be explaining why things aren't happening the way that you want, or why you can't have what you want? Are you constantly looking for the why your situation is the way it is? For instance, do you regularly complain about your health? Aches and pains in your body, your eyesight, your memory, your partner, your family, your financial situation. Have you ever stopped to wonder why you don't ever experience improvement in that part of your life, regardless of how much you try? Maybe it's the story that you're telling. Okay? Maybe it's the complaining and the explaining that's perpetuating that for you. It's really because your words and your thoughts in this situation, if this is you, are undermining your desires and your efforts. Okay? And so what I want you to do instead is actually take time to appreciate. This is important. Take time to appreciate and tell the story of what you like instead of what you don't like. So whatever it is you're experiencing right now, especially if it's something where you're kind of feeling stuck, I want you to really drill into what's a good thing that you're experiencing. There's got to be at least one positive thing that's a result of where you are right now. That's the thing that I want you to latch onto and appreciate, and bring yourself to a real, genuine place of appreciation and actually feel that appreciation in your emotional body. And then what that will do is help open you up energetically to other things that you can appreciate. And that will start bringing things that you can appreciate into your life and into your experience, especially around whatever's going on in your Gemini house. Or, as we were talking, because of polarity and reciprocity, it could also be whatever's going on in your Sagittarius house, right? But the real reason for this is because it's going to help move you into a new space energetically. Explaining why we are where we are is a real convenient way of shifting responsibility for the situation that we're in, right? It's a way of externalizing blame, but that also externalizes our power to change the circumstances, right? So explaining, quite simply, gives away your power. And I don't want you to do that anymore. That's important, okay? So regardless as to the cause or your own blamelessness or whether or not anyone else will accept responsibility, which they won't, guaranteed, right? What I want you to do is learn to extract yourself from any kind of unwelcome predicament or uncomfortable situation in life by taking action yourself, okay? And in doing so, what you do is you accept responsibility for your own outcome. And sometimes that action is simply an energetic shift, okay, into appreciation. There's something going on for you right now that you can appreciate. There's something, guaranteed, there's got to be something. And if you haven't found it, maybe you're not looking in the right place, okay? I want you to also consider the word because. We've talked about this before in some live streams. Because. Because is a really, really powerful word, right? I love it because we can use it to empower ourselves just as easily as we can use it to disempower ourselves through explaining, right? And through complaining. And the story that I like to use to kind of illustrate this, some of you have maybe heard this anecdotally. It has to do with a weird, like a sociological experiment that was conducted where they had people interrupt to cut in line at a copy machine, right, to use the copier. And what they found through this social experiment was that when people just said, can I cut in front of you, they just asked, the folks who'd been waiting in line were a lot more resistant to letting that happen. But if someone said, do you mind if I go first because, and gave a reason why, whether that was because I'm in a hurry or because I only need to make one copy or whatever, when they gave a because, the people who were already waiting in line were much more likely to let that person go ahead of them, right? Because is a powerful word. But instead of taking it down this tack that we normally take of, I can't because, this isn't happening for me because, I want you to use your because in an empowered way. In the sense that as you set your intention tonight, I want you to set your intention, I want this because. So whatever it is you're setting an intention for tonight, as you are writing out what that intention is, as you're visualizing what that outcome is, I want you to be thinking of the why behind why you want it. What will it do for you? What's your motivation? What's your because? Okay? So if up until now you've been telling a story around blamelessness, or if you've invested yourself in explanations as to why you are where you are, then this particular solar eclipse in Gemini is challenging you to tell another story. One that empowers you rather than making you the victim and therefore blameless. Okay? And so this is moving out of making excuses for why we can't have what we want, really, is what it is. So instead of, I can't afford that, in other words, describing the experience that you have instead of the one that you want, how can you turn that statement into a question and then open yourself up to what are really the infinite possibilities? So in this sense, how can I afford that? Instead of, I can't afford that. How can I afford that? What could I do to afford that? Okay, and so when you shift into this place of questioning, of asking the question, of living in the question, I want you to try as much as you can to do it from a place of genuine childlike wonder. Okay, remember Gemini is the natural ruler of the third house, right? Which describes your childhood experience. So tap into your inner child, your childlike wonder, your childlike curiosity about the world as you do this, okay? I know you've all probably seen that meme about that's why it's called spelling, right? Because what you manifest always matches the vibrational frequency of the words that you think and the words that you speak. Okay? In the Bible, creation is referred to as logos, the logos, right? Quite literally the word of God, the word of creation. So words literally have that power, the power of creation. And I want you to really take that to heart tonight in your intention setting practice. Now, some of the other Gemini themes that we can explore have to do with curiosity, have to do with ideas, have to do especially with the exchange of ideas. So things like learning and teaching. You can't, in a learning and teaching situation, there's always two. There's a teacher and a student, right? So it's an exchange of knowledge or an exchange of information between two minds. In dialogue, it's an exchange of ideas or an exchange of information between two people. In trade and commerce, it's an exchange of goods, it's an exchange of services, it's an exchange of value. So all of these things have to do with the movement of things between two polarities. And that is something that you can really kind of tap into tonight as well. As you're setting your intentions, be thinking about what do you have to offer in exchange for what it is you want to manifest. Okay? What exchange can you be engaging in your own life? Okay? So get your pen and paper. We're gonna get into the actual intention setting. I'm gonna go over some prompts for y'all to consider, but I'm going to give these prompts with the caveat that when we're working with eclipse energy, I strongly encourage you to just go in whatever direction you feel pulled. Okay? Let your inner guidance guide you, because eclipses are super, super powerful. And there may be something else going on in your chart or in your life that you're being moved towards or pulled towards. So even though I'm going to go through these prompts, if there's something that speaks to you, feel free, run with it. But always, 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 when we're working with eclipses, whether it's a new moon eclipse or a full moon eclipse, go with your own internal guidance, because that's really going to be the most powerful direction that you can go. Okay? So tonight's intention setting, I want you to consider, how can you tell a different story? And what is that story? How can choosing to tell a new story empower you in your life, especially in the area of your life that's ruled by Gemini or that's ruled by Sagittarius? I want you to consider, what is your new question? And how will you turn around your tendency to describe and define, and therefore limit, you're really boxing yourself in, you're limiting your experience. How can you turn that tendency around in order to open yourself up to infinite possibilities? I want you to consider, what is your because? Hey, universe, I want to cut in line at the copy machine because. What's your because? Does it empower you or does it disempower you? And if it disempowers you, how can you reframe it? Okay? And what I really, really want you to do, especially as we move through the coming weeks and even the coming months, as you find your intention playing out for you, practice telling a new story anytime you catch yourself explaining, complaining, or bonus round, criticizing. And that could be criticizing yourself or criticizing other people. Okay? So whenever you catch yourself in those sorts of behaviors, pivot to whatever your new story is. Or if you don't have a new story around that thing, make up a new story right on the spot. Okay? Prompt number whatever, I didn't number these at all. How can you invite curiosity into your life? How can being more curious in your approach to the world or in approach to your work, whatever it is, how can being more curious help invite possibilities and invite opportunities? In what ways can you invite exchange into your experience? The exchange of ideas, of knowledge, of goods or services, or of information. And how could that benefit you? How could it benefit you in your Gemini house? How could it benefit you in your Cancer house, which is where Mercury is right now, where he's about to retrograde? What intention can you set for that, and what is your ideal outcome? Okay, so I'll recap the prompts briefly. What I want you to do, pick any one of them, or like I said, just go where you feel led, but take some time to visualize what that ideal outcome is. And I want you to imagine it in as much detail as possible. And the reason for that is Gemini is an air sign. It's mental. This is a great time to spend the time and the mental effort with this in your head, and then put it down on paper in words. That's really going to help reinforce the outcome of whatever intention you set tonight. So take some time to visualize that ideal, perfect outcome. Imagine all the details, imagine the sights, imagine the sounds, imagine the smells, imagine the way that having that outcome will make you feel. Like emotionally, how would you feel if you had it right now in this instance? And then when you get there emotionally, I want you to add in a splash of gratitude and appreciation for it as you visualize. And then once you've gotten really clear about all those details, I want you to draw it out on a piece of paper. And it doesn't have to be, it could be stick figures, I don't care. It can be like the ugliest sketch ever, as long as it's for real and from you and from the heart. But I want you to draw it out on your paper. And then ideally, what you're going to do when you're done is create an affirmation around that intention. And this would be an affirmation that you can come back to over the coming days, the coming weeks, the coming months, and plan what is your first step towards that going to be. What is your first action item? Now, you're not necessarily going to do it today. Typically, we advise you, astrological considerations, like take those into account. Typically, we advise you to take that initiatory action at the first light of the new moon, which usually happens a couple of days after the actual new moon. Now, you always do want to take a look at what astrology is going on at that time to make sure that it works for you. Like, right now we're coming up on Mercury retrograde, and so this is a state of flux along with the eclipses. And so you want to be really, really careful in that sense. But create an affirmation around your intention and plan what that first step is going to be. And then be prepared to take just a small initiatory step towards whatever this intention is here in the next couple of days. Okay? I'm going to recap these prompts. For those of you who are ready, go ahead and dive in. For those of you who are joining late, here we go. How can you tell a different story? How can choosing to tell a new story empower you in your life? What's your new question? How will you turn around your tendency to describe and define and therefore limit your experience in order to open yourself up to infinite possibilities? What is your because, and does it empower or disempower you? And if it disempowers you, how can you reframe it? Okay? So I want you to get clear about what your new story is so that you can practice telling it. How can you invite curiosity into your life? How can being more curious help to invite possibilities and opportunities? How can it break you out of a box, right? And then in what ways can you invite exchange into your experience? The exchange of ideas, knowledge, goods or services, or information, and how can that benefit you? And then what intention can you set for that? What is your ideal outcome? So everyone, take some time to do your visualizing, write it out, draw it out, get your affirmation ready, and then when you're done, if you want to circle back around and share in the comments any of those pieces or all of them if you choose, I'd love to have you share in the comments when you're done. It's always fun and inspiring to see what other people come up with. I always like that. Okay, so here we go. In today's page of the Moon Gazing Journal, before I start scribbling on it, it says, this is from William Wordsworth, "The crescent moon, star of love, glories of evening, as yea there are seen, but with but a span of sky between, speak one of you, my doubts remove, which is the attendant page and which is the queen." I butchered that. So sorry, Wordsworth. It's not nice to butcher Wordsworth. All right, to your intentions. So good to have y'all on. If anyone needs more time, let me know. I don't know if I really drew an outcome. I drew me. The new me. Doesn't she look so happy and peaceful? And then I just filled in the space around with words that describe the experience that I want to have. Like contented and happy and balanced and generous and knowing myself. Healed, loving, harmonious. So I filled in with a bunch of words like that. And I may continue. I may just go ahead and scribble in some more words after the end of the broadcast and flesh this out even more. So when I sat down to do my intention setting practice, so for me this is Gemini, right? That's first house. And I am on the cusp of being able to kind of like reinvent myself however I want, reinvent the life that I want to experience. And so I sat down with the question, what is my new story? What is my new story? What is my new adventure? What is that adventure into independence? And so what I wrote for my intentions, I wrote a couple. And I'm still I think I'm gonna be playing with the outcome and what that outcome looks like. Right now I'm describing it in words. And I'll have to spend some time, I think, with these words to really get into what does that look like? What does that really actually look like when it plays out? But here's what I wrote as my intentions. I intend to step fully and enthusiastically into my new life as an independent and empowered woman. I intend to explore myself completely and to get to know the woman I am and the woman I want to become on an intimate level and bring her fully and powerfully into the world. I intend to bring a playful, curious, powerful, strong, open, compassionate, whole, and healed feminine self into all of my activities, endeavors, and interactions with others. I pledge to discover this self through exploration, through introspection, through curiosity, so as to bring her fully to life, both within myself and in the world. And it's my intention that I be fulfilled, that I experience a harmonious lifestyle, and that I bring this fulfillment and harmony with me into everything that I do. So that's what I wrote for my intentions. And I think that last piece is really kind of my affirmation too, that it is my intention that I be fulfilled and that I experience a harmonious lifestyle and that I bring this fulfillment and harmony with me into everything that I do. That's my intention. That's my affirmation. So if you will, if you're so inclined to share your intention or your affirmation in the comments, I invite you to do that. And thank you for your patience with our wireless signal hiccup. And I'm broadcasting from a new phone, so I don't quite like have the settings right for whatever it is for the data to just kind of pick up if the wireless signal drops. So sorry. It's been kind of weird too, because I'm used to everything plugging in from the top, like my microphone will plug in from the top, and now everything plugs in from the bottom. And actually, I think when we started part 2 of the broadcast, I didn't even have my microphone plugged in. See, it's not. Going to have sound quality issues when I stitch these broadcasts together. Well, that's how it is. So thank you. Yes, thanks everyone for joining me. Like I was saying, take time to visualize your ideal outcome and imagine it in as much detail as possible, down to how it would make you feel to have that outcome manifest in your life. And once you get there to that emotional place, really tap into gratitude and appreciation as you're visualizing it. And then, like I was saying, draw it out on paper. Once you're really, really clear what that ideal outcome is, draw it out on paper and then create your affirmation around that intention and plan your first step, your first action item. Now, we are right on the cusp of Mercury retrograde with this new moon, and that retrograde could have an impact in the outcome. Okay, so whatever it is that you do start right now, you may come back and refine it and tweak it later. So keep that in mind. Okay, especially as Mercury retrogrades over those degrees and then comes back once he returns to direct motion. That's when you'll really start to see, oh, here's some things that I might do to improve it or change it or whatever, or here's this thing that I didn't consider that's really kind of not working. Okay, so keep an open mind. Ha, Gemini. Keep an open mind around these things, right? As far as announcements, the July overview and short reports will be on the website soon. Hopefully tonight or tomorrow. If you are not signed up for email notifications for when the overview gets posted to the website, you may want to sign up, because then you'll know as soon as it goes up. If you missed the Sidereal Insights Astro update from earlier today, you can catch it. I've got a link for you right here. And I go into a little bit more depth around, I didn't copy that very well, apparently. Hold on, let me copy the link. Let me copy the link. Apparently right-clicking is not working today. Oh, you know what? Here's what it is. It helps when you didn't turn off your keyboard. All right, let's try it again. There we go. So there's a link to the Astro update from earlier today. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And when you're at YouTube, click on the little notification bell icon so that you get notified whenever a video gets posted. And that way, if I happen to not send out a reminder email that the live streams are happening, like I didn't do that today, I'm so sorry, you'll at least get notified by YouTube whenever I post a new video. So definitely subscribe and click the notification icon, and that way you don't ever miss a broadcast. And please follow us on Facebook. Follow Mystick, Physick, Astrology on Facebook, and be sure to share the broadcast once I put the edited version up if you know someone that might be interested in doing an intention setting practice for the new moon in Sidereal Gemini for this solar eclipse, because it's an especially powerful new moon opportunity. Definitely feel free to share with them. And thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.